Good morning. I'm Aimee, and thanks for joining me for your Monday morning meditation, April 10th, 2017. My hope is you do this meditation at the quietest part at the start of a day or the quietest part at the end of the day. That's really how you'll get benefit, when you can get just a little bit less noise. It's really ironic when you have a little less noise outside you can hear yourself think a little better. And so then this meditation can work for you in a greater way. Today I'm going to talk about being in the world but not of it. And that's not a concept that's like supposed to just float around out in the ether. That's a concept that we can actually bring to the concrete pavement of our personal life. So let's begin. You're going to get yourself comfortable. Sit cross-legged, sit in a chair, feet on the floor. If you're sitting cross-legged, put a pillow or blanket under your bottom. Get your hips a little above the knees, takes pressure out of the back. If you're sick, if you're ill, if you're really tired, you want to do this laying down. You just want to listen to the sound of my voice while laying in bed, feel free. I would still encourage you to put something underneath the backs of your knees to take pressure off your back. All right, let's see if we can take some pressure off. Let's decompress rather than add more on. Start by exhaling. And originally, you don't usually hear yourself exhale that much. Because I have a strong yoga practice, my breathing comes in a little deeper. It did not used to be that way. I can assure you, I used to sound like I was a ghost. This is the faintest exhalation. Regardless, I now know that your faintest exhalation is only where it begins. It's not where it's going to stay. So I want you to take in another breath. Open your mouth wider. Stick your tongue down to your chin and let all that sound go. You might have heard yourself a little better. When you let everything go, then you're really emptying out yourself, your lungs. And then the inhale will just kind of arrive on its own. So just let it show up. Without overfilling, please pause the breath at the top for like 3 to 5 counts. You're not going to die. Open your mouth very slowly. Take a long time getting that exhale out and through. The way out is through. Breath in. Please hold it at the top. Open your mouth. Let it all move out. As you get toward the end of that exhalation, I've studied the breath a lot, which is great for you because I can give you information as to how it is having an effect on your mind and your nervous system and your emotional body. As you get those exhalations toward the bottom, you might hear them start to feel or sound a little ragged. So if that's the case, I want you to snuff it out like if you were snuffing out a wick on a candle. Just when you do it, pull your belly in sharply towards your spine, like that, okay? You'll get all that residue out, and then you're just going to have all that space to fill up from the bottom of your lungs up. You hold it at the top when you're not overfilling. No need to overfill. Let go. So you're getting the air out of your lungs, right? But you're also making a new space for yourself. Typically, all of us in humanity that rush around in a hurry, that are worried, that are agitated, that are sad, that are scared, that are depressed, that are anxious, our breathing rhythm is, operating by that. Like it's aligning with whatever the state is, like your state of being. And so if it's all of that, then we will just breathe more in the upper part of the chest. Then we do not exhale enough, so we're never really free. And if we're never really free, then my feeling is that we can't ever really feel free to relax. If we can't really just breathe in a seamless, effortless way, then we'll always kind of be semi-contracted muscularly, mentally. Just kind of like a vigilance of alertness. And I'm asking you to consider that if you can relax a little bit, which is a practice, by the way, this is what meditation is just in support of, us relaxing and clearing our mind a little bit, your whole perspective will shift. Your whole state will shift. Okay? Bring your 10 fingers together, and I'll explain as we go through this to the best that I can, the best that I've figured out through countless hours of my own practice. All 10 fingertips touching. Rest your eyes in front of you, like at the space in front of your fingertips. And just calmly breathe in. Nice and easy, let go. Long and slow exhalations are what starts to slow down the mind. At the bottom of your exhalation, there should be just a slight pause before your next breath comes in, before the train of an inhale comes back around. Take it in slow. Hold it just slightly. Breathe out slow and easy. We make the breath slow and easy. It starts to slow up. Let your gaze soften on the one thing you're staring at. Let your eyes drop into the one place you're staring at, but it is not a fixed stare. It's not a stare where you check out. Invite yourself to check in. Land your gaze on your thumb tips touching. And with your thumb tips touching, your eyes are there. Your eyes are there.
Aimee's iPhone disconnected. Ready to pair.
And as your eyes are there on your thumb tips, I would like you to envision any other thoughts that are kind of in the river of mind or the mud of your mind. And this is what happens. We have a thought and we get stuck on it. Like it's just like getting stuck in the mud. I only offer something because I was and can still get stuck in the mud. But this helps me get unstuck a little sooner. And because I've recognized that this value of feeling more empowered to get myself unstuck, it's the only reason I like to talk about it and offer it to people. Because, you got to get to a place where you realize Every single person is suffering. And if I can shift you out of your suffering succotash state for a little bit, or your hurried state, or your worried state, if we can shift the constitution of your thinking mind, just bring in a little more light, then everything changes. Your thumb tips are physically touching. And when your mind is simply a little quieter, it'll start to have concentration for the thumb tips touching. You do not show up to meditation saying, I'm all in, let's do this, let's perfect this. You just show up. Nothing more is needed. Meditation meets you where you are. I meet you where you are. And we just work with what there is for today. Your mind's allowed to trail off. Your mind is allowed to say, wow, I'm really with the thumb tips. Wow, I can really feel them. Wow, I can feel a physical sensation of touch, of heat, of tingling. And it's really, really something my thinking mind is in knowing of. And you'll be all like super proud. And then you'll slip off into an avalanche of thoughts about angel hair pasta or something. And garlic. And what are you going to make for dinner? And, all of that. So when you recognize that, forget about it. Just turn around and go back to thumb tips touching. We beat ourselves up so much. For what? I think that's probably what's aging us. Thumb tips are touching. Earlier at the start, I spoke about being in the world but not of it. And what I'm asking you and inviting you to do is be in your thinking mind, or be with it. How about that? Be with it, but not of it. That means that you're almost on the outside of yourself watching your mental script roll on like a movie. Like you're just putting it up on screen and you're watching it like a movie. Which isn't about disassociating, and it's nothing weird. It's just simply saying, how can I get space? And how can I create a space that starts to lessen my need to attach and tether myself to every thought? Thumb tips still touching. Your physical eyes drop down into the thumb tips. Like if your eyes, if the state of your eyes is to wander, your mind will always wander. If your eyes are always wandering, then your nervous system is always like, okay, what's up? Because we can't relax. It sends that message to the brain, we can't relax. And so that's probably not new. And I'm inviting you to try on this. Instead of your eyes wandering, let your eyes almost drill into your thumb tips. Drill right into your thumb tips. Or be like a fly. It's buzzing all around and then suddenly just lands. Or if you don't like the image of a fly, pick something you do like a hummingbird. How about that? Your hummingbird. Like our minds can be like hummingbirds, just flitting around all over the place, bouncing thought to thought. Like a bird bouncing off a glass window. And then just start slowing down the speed of which you think. and just thumb tips drop down to the thumb tips. Just hold your gaze there, not a fixed stare, and not a hard stare. We always think everything needs to be really hard. Okay, great. Now drop over to your index fingers touching. Whatever thoughts come in, and they will, because our thoughts are always trying to get our attention. Our feelings are also trying to get our attention. And there's nothing like sitting still and having something rush up to the surface and smack you in the face. I'm asking, can you practice just for tonight, just for today, being a silent witness, like it's you, but you're not of it. You're in it, you're with it, but you're not of it. Yes, you know you're having a thought, but you're not attaching to it because you're attaching your focus instead to index fingers touching. You're probably pretty familiar with the phrase, what you resist persists. I'm not asking you to resist your thoughts. I'm asking you instead to just turn your focus instead onto index fingers touching. Drill your concentration to your index fingers so you can have an anchor, a holding in a healthy way. And just let the thoughts literally swim by. That looks like this. You're sitting still. You're really making an effort. And you don't want to make an effort that's like constipated. You just want to make a sincere effort. A sincere effort to give your presence of mind to index fingers touching. And all of a sudden you'll think about, what did that person really mean when they looked at me like that yesterday? And you'll go back to the index fingers touching. And then you might think, why did that person say that to me? And you go back to index fingers touching. Like, your mind will, especially if it's suffering, it'll try to get a lot of your attention. Kind of just like a kid who's suffering, you know? And so you have compassion being with your thoughts, but not of them. Because sometimes our thoughts can just drill, like bore into us in a way that's not helpful. Your eyes rest on your index fingers touching. So be with your thought, and at the same time let it flow by, like if it was just going down a river. Not in a rush, just passing through. Because we have thoughts, all of us have thoughts, constant thoughts, all the time. And those thoughts make us feel a certain way. They make us feel yay or nay. Bring your focus to your middle fingers touching now, please. Sometimes I have to move my index fingers out of the way or position my hands different. Do whatever you need to. Do whatever you need to. So what happens is we have a thought, and especially if we've been under a lot of stress, a lot of duress, usually our mind has been in a lot of trauma, and so there'll be a tendency to be worried, to be anxious about something. And we've had valid experiences on the outside that created that state, so it's valid. But it's not the whole picture. Middle fingers are touching. Just stay with slowing your exhale down. Plug right into the sound of my voice. Let it fill up your mind, almost leaving no room for anything else. Just for a bit. You have all the rest of the day or night to think all you want. For now, be with your middle fingers touching. When thoughts come in, when they pop up, instead turn to middle fingers touching. There's a part of you that's an observer of the thought coming in, popping up, and especially when you don't give it attention, it'll probably want to come in stronger, and yet you're not turning away from it. You're just being with it and adding nothing more to it. So you start to practice a healthy detachment. And that's really powerful. And it is a practice. We're just practicing it. We're just giving it a try. And every time we meditate, we practice detaching more. But in a healthy way. We detach from the state of mind that's suffering. And we give it this instead. And while sitting here focusing on middle fingers touching, any thought that you have, can you please direct some energy of compassion toward it? Like, for example, if you're thinking, I'm always late. I'm going to be late. Oh, I'm going to screw up again. I'm going to be so late. Oh my God. What's wrong with me? Oh my God, I'm doing it again. They all know I do this. Your inner judge loves to get right in there, like with boxing gloves, and, bat you around. That actually keeps creating you to be late. The punishment, the judging, the shaming. Could you direct compassion? Just like the statements like that, give them a shot of compassion. Give them a shot of empathy. And also with a dose of reality. Yes, I'm late. I was late. And I can now decide I can shift it. And then you just start doing that. And you're not letting yourself off the hook. You're meeting yourself where you're at with love and sincerity. So you start becoming an ally to your thoughts. You start befriending and not making yourself wrong. But if we're used to criticism on the inside, usually because it was on the outside, we are used to condemning, we're used to shaming. Usually it was an outside experience, somebody said this, whatever. Trust me, I know all about it. What if you were to just have a response back of compassion, of understanding, and yet still holding yourself accountable? Bring your focus to your third fingers. I only ever had those outside experiences. just a constant tsunami, created deep, 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 deep self-doubt, self-loathing. And I became master in the self-abuse of self-shaming. Third fingers touching. Yet I would never, ever, ever can even consider talking like that to somebody I loved. I never, ever, ever got off shaming my kids. I just didn't. I do not get off criticizing people, talking about people behind their back. It pains me so much because I have experienced it. So I could treat everyone else better on the outside, but I really had a beef with myself. Third fingers touching. Through the practice of meditation, that was one thing I did out of many things. You know, my mind was suffering. It was frayed. My nervous system frayed. I had to do many, many different things to start to put my inner Humpty Dumpty back together. But what I can tell you that's true and that was real and that I could start making it a practice, although it was not easy, was I had to start bringing the same me that was an ally to everyone else, that was an ally to everyone else but herself. And I had to start becoming my own ally, and that was a practice. Third fingers physically touching. Bore your concentration there. And I've been working on that for a long time. And you know what's so crazy? There's so many people that don't trust it. Like, it's really, really weird, right? We all want people to be nice and loving, but then when you come across somebody who seems to genuinely care, we don't trust it. We think, all right, what's going on? All right, where's my wallet? Yeah, they're full of shit. And then we look to validate that somebody's full of shit. For what? Just for being fucking nice. Like, it's kind of comical, you know? And then we keep saying shit like, the world's going to hell in a handbasket, or, you know, you can't trust anybody these days. And, you know, like that, you know, like, I don't know, like maybe I started to suffer from a young age because we had Murphy's Law up on the living room wall. Anything can go wrong, it will. When it rains, it pours. I grew up around people that always said, oh, brother, it's always something. So I started to look for I started to look in life for the experiences that validated. Because I started to realize that trusting and feeling safe in the world and feeling at ease felt dangerous. Pinky fingers touching, please. Let's go back to being an ally. Bring your thoughts instead towards just the simplicity of pinky fingers touching. See how something simple. See, like, we're not adding more on. We're just sitting with what is. We're letting it all fall away in a healthy detachment. So we get a little more freed up space. It's just like when your phone gets all clogged up, like when I have too many pictures on my phone, which is constant because I like to capture like people and moments and expressions. And so, you know, I'll use up a lot of space that way on my phone. It's just like that. It really is. We're just sitting and clearing out some space on your iPhone of mind. Why would we do that? Pinky fingers, feel them more. We do that so we have a little space to think, we can breathe easier. You could keep turning toward the negative. You could keep turning towards the shaming, the criticizing, the worry. You could keep rushing all around like a hummingbird. Or you could just start to recognize that energy all needs something to counter it. Pinky fingers touching. And as you counter it, that energy starts to come towards you more. All 10 fingers touching. And as you start to get away from the negative, away from the criticism, away from the judging, away from the danger, away from the, am I going to make it? What's going to happen next? Oh God. You shift toward this. And you just do it a little bit every day. And then you start to crave it. You start to want to go here. You start to want to feed your, not just your mind, but your life, your world, with simplicity, solitude, love, ally. All 10 fingers touching. And as you start to bring more of an ally attitude towards yourself, you become an entirely different warrior. In a way that's not about fight or flight. It's about knowing, wow, if I'm centered and I'm peaceful, that is powerful. And if I'm centered and I'm peaceful, I can serve people in such a totally different way. I can serve their suffering. In a way that alleviates. And meditation says, it's not a bed of nails. It's an opportunity to alleviate. 10 fingers touching. Let them all fuse together. Bring your hands to your heart. Take a long breath in. And a long breath out. The straight facts is that while I had learned to become, kind of a frenemy to myself, it felt dangerous even more to practice being an ally. It felt dangerous at first. It felt wrong. It felt almost like I was betraying friends that like to be more negative, more gossipy and stuff. It felt like I was betraying relatives who I had sat with for years and listened to them rip people apart and laugh like crazy. So I understand if it feels a little bit edgy to shift out of something that you've only been used to. It's how we have survived. Being around people, it's, and then we became it. We became it to ourselves. We became it with the crowd. And anything but that can feel wrong or dangerous, like a threat to the survival emotionally. What I can tell you is that I understand that. And I also understand that the people who've shamed and judged and criticized and gossiped and all of that, I've kind of stepped aside from it now, and I feel for them. I feel for them because I know that they're suffering. I know that they're judging people. I know that people who judge and people who criticize are doing that first and foremost to themselves, to theirs truly. I didn't know that before. I know it now. And what I can tell you is that they're dying for something to be alleviated too. They're dying to feel a little more peaceful and just loved. So we practice shifting out of our norm, our conditioning, always usually from a young age. And we expand into something more. And as we become that true deep friend inside and to ourselves, we hold a much more powerful space than the judger. We really do. I know these practices aren't always easy because they might make things that we've thought and felt a little different than what we were used to. But look at the state of our humanity. There's a collective suffering because there's individual hatred of the self. Let's step out of that. Turn toward this instead. How else do we heal? I send you big love and big compassion to you. Enjoy. Take it easy, okay?